Ladies and Germans, how are you all doing? This is Con Ulrich.
Drangru, low, low, low.
And folks, we're on Orsha East today, as we seem to be so often these days. Casting another match from the monthly tournament. Who do we have, sir?
Left hand side in the blue, we have Tonnoman playing 17th SS with a balanced income. Right hand side in red, we have a Paladin Lepa playing Reimer Rapana again with a flatline income.
Well, the funny thing I kind of just realized just now the flatline income is that most Rapana players are desperate to avoid that kind of outcome, where their entire army gets flatlined. But, we see this so often, don't we? Other than I say so often, but I mean, this is certainly a Paladin kind of special at this point. And I've never seen a sniper take out a truck, a Kubelwagen, with a single rifle bullet. That's actually kind of crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that happen.
Good for him. He probably, it's like Grand Theft Auto style, shot the gas port and then just boom, blew it up.
I was thinking more of the Sniper Elite thing. He aimed for
Yeah.
the red gas cap, and then skipped a bullet into Adolf Hitler's groin area. So I don't know.
Yeah, so secret to destroying IS-2 tanks.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've watched my documentary. I've played through the documentary. That's the Sniper Elite games.
Hmm?
However, early breakups, we do have ourselves that machine gun battle, which is always so much fun to watch between the Maxims and the MG42s, north side of the town. Wouldn't be surprised to see this go rather negatively for the finish, just because that teensy tiny, itsy bitsy little detail, the IG-18, just pounding away at those buildings.
Yeah, it comes down to, once again, classic Reimer Rapana play. If you don't have a whole lot of fire support backing you up, it's really down to the infantry. But 17th SS is a pretty decent infantry selection. The Hand Grenadiers have kept at range, can hold their own, and of course, they do have those SS Legionaries who are pretty damn scary and can take the Ikari a run for their money.
I do have to give a minor, kind of, I'm going to put this in air quotes, assist to the MS-406. You might have just missed it, but there's a BF-109 rocket plane that came in to intercept, and that 406 just kited like crazy until the 20 mil took it out. So, kind of a egg on my face moment, I feel, for that BF-109 pilot.
Yeah, and also just all this reconnaissance he's getting from no anti-air presence whatsoever is allowing him to get very good eyes on the top of his hill. And as you see here, Tonnoman's very much kind of pinned down along the edge of his position. He hasn't been able to push heavily into the town, while Paladin's managed to set up a pretty decent defensive line a little bit more aggressively. It seems he's bringing in, a bunch of troops to try to hit the southern town area on the hill.
True, but at the same time, he's also trying to go and elicit a response out of Tonnoman over here on the northern side. Lahti's moving on in, Jacari's, I hit the Juntas, and the Cisco Pioneer. Well, against Volksdeutsche. Curiously enough, the Volksdeutsche are not out of this one.
Oh, they have one of, well, they have really like some of the best disheartened troops in game. It's literally just a Panzer Grenadier squad, just not so motivated for the fight. Now, to be fair, I guess they wouldn't be so motivated being taken from the Western Front to the Eastern Front. They're looking for a quick surrender, not being sent to a Russian gulag.
Yeah, very, very true. And I imagine since there's Volksdeutsche, there's probably a couple guys in those in the ranks that really shouldn't be kneeling down, because it would take them about 5 minutes to get back up. And a 50 mil mortar in the meantime going to go and engage, and that's going to be enough to at least discourage any counter push. At the same time, giving these CCs and more Finnish guys moving across east-west, across the northern top. Let's call it the scalp of that head part of the hill.
Yep. But yeah, nothing really else all that crazy going on the map. Even though Lepa's got pretty good momentum in the central part of the hill, he does not have that point advantage, because down south, Tonnoman with, just a little bit of vehicle maneuver has been able to take the majority of the important flags on the southern side.
Now, that is true, but we are seeing now the T-26, the mighty T-26. Two of them have moved on up. They've taken out a 233, and because of that, this actually, the 231 goes down. Actually, Tonnoman's in danger of losing this entire head part of the hill.
Oh, yeah.
He might, and I put might, be able to take part of the neck way down south, but his Flammenwerfer troops are getting crushed. And those Jacars, if they get close enough, it's going to be a hassle. Even if they don't get close enough, there's still the Lahtis on the Lajito Juntas. They should be able to take out that 231 without too much care.
Yeah, he's setting himself up for a pretty nice victory in that northern sector. Same with the Sissy sniper unit on the hill being able to shut down just some of the more soft-skinned reinforcements. And really, yeah, there's good use of snipers in the central position as well. And to get some hit on Panther Grenadiers. And those are very important because, once again, Panther Grenadiers are fantastic at long range. Finns, not so much, yeah? Their homegrown machine gun, the Lahti 26 is... It's bad. It's really bad. Probably
Oh
one of
yeah.
the worst LMGs of the war.
Very, very true. But we are seeing right about now. Ooh, folks, thought you're gonna take it out. I didn't even see the Blenheim come in, and apparently not did that Port Volksdeutsche. But the win of BF-109 does mark his own territory, but not in time, I think, to turn this back around, as we still have another brace of T-26s and that 50 mil. North is going to go over here to Paladin before too much longer.
Yeah, and we're not even really seeing that much of like an emergency reinforcement, which you'd usually see when the the northern side for one side is not going right. Okay, there we go. But it's gonna be way too late. Okay, a Stug foil. Yeah, it's pretty decent, but at the same time, it's about being able to put pressure back into that position. Yo, this is Ryan Rapana we're talking about. A Stug 4 may as well be a Tiger tank, as they don't have a whole lot of heavy AT.
That's true, but they still have the Befehle Panzer III, and while they don't have... I mean, excuse me, actually, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong deck there for a second. You're absolutely right. I was like, wait, a Befehle Panzer III? That makes no sense. That's the 17th SS, so yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, wow. It's one of those things that, you intellectually realize that the Finns don't have tanks, and they don't have tank destroyers, and really don't have anything whatsoever that does anything worse than flesh.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing it, and then seeing it, and then seeing it again, it's always a surprise, you know?
Yeah, Reimer Rapana, I would think is pretty confident to say some of the worst, like, traditional AT in the game. Yes, you do have, like, Panzerfaust, Panzerschrecks, all of that stuff. But in terms of, like, stand-up battles, I mean, your only tank is T-26s. Like, Godspeed with that, mate. They're great in CQC, and they're very valuable, but, if you're forced to fight, man-to-man, 1.5 clicks array, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, especially when the 233s of the 17th SS can trade comparably, taking a 2 or 3 to 1. I mean, that's not really the kind of fighting you want to be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, speaking of them, I'm surprised that these have been utilized so passively by Tonnoman, especially in the southern side. He has been able to take out a couple of anti-tank guns getting moved on in, but I feel like these are the materials that you need to circle around, pick up a couple more flags, and maybe cut off these reinforcement points, because once you get the Finns entrenched, again, we've said this 1,000 times, they're hard as nails to kind of claw back out.
Yeah, hasn't really been pushing anywhere. Tonnoman's definitely just left the momentum fully in Paladin's Lepa lap, so to speak. And he needs to try to, like you said, make something happen. Down south would be his best bet. Even just buying a single Stug 4 to just zone out the massive open field area, you pretty much automatically win the south if you do that and bring some anti-aircraft units along.
And then meanwhile, we have this 50 mil anti-tank gun coming on in, takes up 233. Now, that does mean that the I-153 that's here, he's going to have to come back around and circle. I'm going to guess he's going to go for the 231. You'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Lining up that attack run. Shockingly enough. That was a very plucky maneuver to go out the BF-109. It's still bonkers in my mind, but hey.
He's still trying to pick up a kill or two here, but the Finns are just a little bit slippery for the 109 to get easy eyes on.
Yeah, and with a 4-303s, yikes. Well, head-to-head, yeah, I'm not sure I really would want to do that with anything, but even more so.
Here we go. Now he's just going to back off, get the kill and bugger off. Don't want to stay too much into Finnish airspace, as you eventually just get overrun by a bunch of fighters, which really make a home in the Spanish Civil War, not so much World War II.
And we'll see right now that BF-109 is not able to escape. Now, I did want to check back on that Stoke to the north. He's still chilling. He's totally fine. Martyr 3 in the middle. And not for nothing. Martyr 1s we see all the time. Martyr 2s we see a good chunk of time. Martyr 3s, I feel like, kind of the forgotten big brother of everybody.
Yeah, the Germans are just kind of making Martyrs and janky tank destroyers all over the place. I mean, there's multiple versions of the Martyr, because this is just the German trend. Oh, this is just our version of the Su-76. And it's alright. It's actually quite funny. It's terrible explosive capabilities. There are only 7 HE shells here. But he just needs to, really deal with the handful of T-26s available here to Reimer Rapana. The Marder can do that, it is a little bit thin-skinned. But I think this is just a cheap fire support buy to give him some play on the hill.
Ooh, Strike 4 goes down. Thank you so much, 50 mil in the north. So that Pack 38.
Wow.
Kind of weird to see a door knocker take out a Stug, especially from that distance. Martyr back in the center does kill that T-26, so he, well, he hasn't really officially paid himself off yet, but maybe someday.
Yeah, and Tonnoman feels like he's starting to claw back some of this momentum now of the middle push. I mean, the Volkdeutsch is still thoroughly secured the southern town in the hill, and just with all his Marders, if he's just bring up a bit more infantry to lead his charge, once again, the things, you knock out his T-26s, there's not really a whole lot of anti-tank you have to worry about left.
No, not generally, no. Martyrs face off against T-26s. One Martyr does give his life up for the cause. Both T-26s are down. The other thing, too, that I actually kind of appreciate about the Martyr 3, and always makes me wonder when we hope to see more of them, is that it does bring 1,200 rounds of machine gun, which is something that apparently they forgot to pack in the kit for the other Martyrs in the meantime.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, hands, if infantry comes toward you, just rip out the Luger.
Yeah. It was a curious decision. And we're starting to see, wow, there's an end run happening by the T-26s. So let's look 4 in the area, so I wouldn't expect this to go very far, especially in about 100 meters when it starts to see that part of the line.
It's trying to do a little bit of maneuver warfare here, but like you said, that Sunk coming in is going to come in pretty clutch, even as some Ratchivakis as well pushing through, but they're not going to make it to the NRA useful in the nick of time, so Tonnoman should be able to easily hold. And once again, Tonnoman, he just needs to buy armor, play heavily in the more open areas of this map with his armor, and then you can pretty easily just win the match against Reimer Rapana with their lack of armor. Oh, the Lahti in the rear down south kills the flak villain truck. Good pickoff, yeah, because one of the problems here of Tonnoman, not a whole lot of anti-air in his deck.
So I was distracted by the 84K, the 83.8. We can't route the last 0.2 of a millimeter to 84. But I love seeing a artillery piece be out on the front lines and be like, you know what? It's an 18-pounder over here. Let's not be safe with it. Let's just charge forwards. Why not?
I mean, it run Great War. I guess it can run another.
Yes, but the Great War they think they won was the Winter one, and that didn't go very well. But you're right. I think we are seeing the Finns attempt to do some sort of maneuver warfare. Unfortunately for them, their maneuver is generally at the speed of smell.
Yeah. And usually in a forest.
Exactly. Though I will say the Ratsuvaki, they should just kind of move west, slice off that neck. If you want to start compressing to the north, that's fine. At least get on the hardball road, at least close to it, and then approach, so that way you can hit the Volksdeutsch from 2 different directions.
Yeah, it does also seem Paladin's starting to invest a bit more heavily down south now. He's got some Yozakaris pushing through. And the southern side is a pretty good area for him to contest. There's a lot of very nice forests for him to play around with. And if he can just keep the fighting within the forest before it gets to the bloody open zone area, he'll be in a pretty good spot. But you see, the Panda Grenadiers making their presence felt, as well as the IG-18. You see just a little bit of long-range weaponry, and the Germans can just shut the Finns down.
Oof, yeah. Oh, that's good. The entire push is dead. I was paying attention to the fact that the Pack 38 in the center, which took out the Martyr before going down in turn to the Stug eventually. But lest we forget, there still is an entire swath of Finnish aircraft. Not good necessarily in and of themselves, but there's so many of them. They can afford to lose 2 or 3 or 4 and still make a valuable kill. here or there.
Yeah, they're just super cheap, which allows you to get a nice horde, and well, there's always safety in numbers, especially when it comes to bombing runs.
True. That's true. And speaking of them, we're going to see something happening right about now. No. Very timid airplay, I guess, down here in the south. I'm actually quite surprised by that.
Yeah, I guess he didn't remember the positions of the Panzer Grenadier and IG-18, so... Like, oh, I need to bomb them. Oh, they stopped shooting. Where did they go?
Well, the 18-pounder coming back in. And the 122. Flammenwerfer up front. To me, I don't know. At this point, for me, I'd be hitting what I suspect would be the anti-air positions here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 7 run doing a decent amount of damage. And we're also seeing, yeah, the Stug 4 pushing up. If he can really get Stug 4 onto the edge of the hill, that's such a good, like, line-of-sight position to shut down this at, like, southern central arterial completely. Is that one Pak 38, yeah. And we've seen, it's actually been quite a scary threat to the German armor, especially if you can get just a little bit closer.
That is certainly true. The grunt squad's going to move up to the neck itself. Yeah, Tonnoman is finally starting himself and starting to put together a bit of a struggle. And I think the reason for it is he's thinking to himself, you know what? I've been knocked onto my heels this entire time, and yet the Finns have not been able to capitalize. What this tells me is, all right, 3.5 minutes. If I can stir myself a little bit, technically I have an eco advantage. That last phase, I should be able to do anything I want to against this man.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, just going to come down to equipment, because you just have all of those Stugs, which are a bit overkill, especially against the Finns. Having just some, you know, cheap armored vehicles like more 231s is arguably a bit better. You know, at the same time, you just don't get that many usually with most decks. But if he can just get all those armored vehicles out and about, you can just pretty easily just deal with the Finns, as long as you don't get dragged into forest fights.
Yep. Remember, folks, only you can prevent forest fighters. So, now, one thing I do like, I like the positioning of the 7-1 to the west of the neck. Not because it just provides that cover, although it does a very good job of interdiction right there. But also because, again, if you start to get forced back, infantry gets forced to the neck, people come over the edge of the, let's call it the ridge right there, and they get pounded by 4 cannons that are all 20 mil. Like, why would you not do that more often? I really hesitate to wonder.
Well, yeah, I like the firepower of the flag filling is good, but it's also just such a risky unit to ever use on the front line, because it does have 0 armor, meaning that all it takes is like a single Mosin shot to completely disable it.
Which I think to me is both makes sense and yet still doesn't make sense. But that's a different story for a different time. But I think for me, again, AAA is also good, but it's so unidirectional that you need to find other opportunities for it, I feel.
Yeah, the American runs are usually a bit better, because at least the half tracks are, well, first off, fast.
True.
And also have that armor, and usually sometimes extra machine guns for your machine guns to shoot down more aircraft with their machine guns.
I was lost in the recursive idea of that, but I definitely agree with you completely. I was also taking a look down south that the Yakaris have made themselves a second kind of tentative push, and I think tentative might be the best way to characterize it.
Yeah, I like how he maneuvered that push, because you just run it round the Panzer Grenadier. It's like, no, don't want to run into that fortified position again. And the Akaris in the forest are going to do a little bit better here. But it's still not that big of a force to really make that much of an impact. You still need to contest the farmstead areas, which are out in the open. And he has no fire support to get him into the open.
So I will say there is a Pioneer squad hunting for the Lahti as opposed to necessarily maybe moving south and supporting said troops.
Yeah, Lahti's been a pain.
There's the support. JU-88. Say goodbye to these Pioneers as well as the Yakaris. I guarantee you the Pioneers are going to be dead or get bombed out of existence in about 8 seconds. Well, they're dead. I called that one at least. And the Yakaris are mostly dead themselves. So the importance of not being seen, unfortunately, those guys failed that class.
Yeah, and they are now going to be forced back here. So, we're now into C phase, and it definitely feels like the game's very much in Tonnoman's favor. He's just managing to slowly get those trades. He hasn't made any crazy pushes, but he hasn't lost a huge amount of territory either.
I think we're starting to see the Finnish anti-tank tab get a little bit thin, because we're starting to see the 45 mils getting thrown to the front. Once you see this happening, you usually know things are going very, very poorly.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of those guns, but the problem is they have no heavy anti-tank. They can do well in, like, more CQC areas against the Stugs, but he's just going to have to keep forcing, the battlefield terrain to be CQC. Cannot afford to get pushed out into an open area, which right now, he's actually in a pretty good spot just geographically. None of the areas he's holding or have to fall back into are massively open, apart from the down south, but he has a little bit of leeway still.
And lest we forget, he still does have a crazy amount of air power that he's bringing in, kind of with reckless abandon, I would argue, and without any sort of visuals as well.
Just trying to get those desperate hits in. I mean, really, if running Rapana, being able to utilize your air force aggressively is very important, because they pretty much make up for the lack of ground-based armored vehicles.
Or they do their best to anyway. Another BF-109 finds himself flaming death, sputtering back down to the earth. But even as Tonnoman continues to lose valuable aircraft, he is not losing valuable territory in the meantime. So it's still 13-11 in his favor.
Yeah. You're seeing him make that push along the neck of the hill that Ron's stuck for. Gonna try his darndest, but he realized discretion's probably the better part of valor, and gonna bugger off to hopefully get some infantry reinforcements, which are starting to come. So a very effective push here from Lepa, but it doesn't really gain him, any actual flag positions unless he was to push down south and try to get that farmstead.
Well, we either start going to see Nebelwerfer getting brought on in, so Tonnoman spending an entire tick to bring in that potentially useful material. I would say potentially, because I feel like a lot of people really waste... Oh no, the Lahti's behind both the anti-air and the Stoke 4 Fuhrer.
Oh.
Oh my god, this is going to be terrible. The Pioneers got here in time. These are the 45 mil. Yeah, this sugar's dead, one way or the other. There we go.
There we go. Good distraction there. The 7 runners were out in the open. That Lahti has paid himself off in the end some. He's just been an absolute havoc.
He certainly has caused it. In the meantime, though, even while more teams are rushed to the south, the Ratsuvaki, as well as that one over there, Jakari, kind of pushing up to get this last of Volksdeutsche in that town. Just one lone man who is worried and now engaged, and I understand completely why in both cases. I don't think he's making it out with all of his limbs still attached.
Yeah, we are seeing the Finns actually trying to make a presence felt a little bit more towards the central position of this hill, moving up as infantry, but once again, this kind of goes into a problem of they have to cross this big open field, and the Germans have tanks and machine guns, and infantry machine guns, all over the place. They're not going to get across the open field, they just have to stay put in the town.
True. For some reason, actually, the M62s, there were 2 of them, and they made gun runs, but they didn't use rockets. But it wasn't turned off in the split second that I think I was looking, so I'm not sure what happened there.
Probably just some weird misclick or micro bug.
Fair enough. Fair enough. BF-109 is moving on in, trying to make another suppression flight. I don't know when he's going to realize that the Fakotans are not things to take lightly. Maybe when this guy dies. Now he's gonna limp away. There we go. Okay. But yeah, so Paladin Lepa gets back that 13-11. A new JU-88 goes back to the fray, and he's gonna go and bomb, well, absolutely nothing.
Wait, was he... Oh, is he just bombing the farmstead?
Yes, yes. He's hitting basically what amounts to... Yeah, there you go. I said just to the west of that flag.
Dangers of blind bombing.
Exactly. Remember, remember, kids. Führers don't let Führers do blind bombing. More 50 mils in the meantime.
Yes.
Okay, the 222s. The Volksdeutsche right back in the center. And you know, the funny thing about those 222s is they can dish it out, but they can't really take it. And it's awkward to see when essentially a knee mortar is able to push back an armored vehicle. But here, you know, that's the point where we are at this point, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Lepa's like kind of bringing himself back up here in the 14-10. He does have an econ disadvantage, but only 30 points, and also playing Reimer Rapana. Not that big of a deal for him. But it's, I don't know, it feels weird because he's kind of pigeonholed in all these areas where he can't really push any further, but he still has a decent defense enough where Tonnoman's just going to have a bit of a pain routing out all these blobs of angry Finns, and there's just more Finns being brought in because it's C-Phase and Reimer Rapana. You're just buying infantry.
Here we go. Maybe we'll finally see the rockets being utilized. Will that be the rockets' red glare? Yes. Many rockets thrown, many rockets missed, and the Stroke still reminds himself that, hey, maybe I left the kettle on, and he goes back the other direction.
And they're gonna go for a dogfight now. The I-53s may have been up-tiered and War Thunder realistic battles, but they're ready to go after the G6.
Yeah, because they're like the G6. They think they're going to be doing something about it. It is not them who gets the kill, though. Again, the Fakultans have been brutal this game.
I think that's all 109 fighters down now.
I think you might be right. And one of the early BF-109s we have seen go down was one of the rocket planes, but I think you are correct, sir.
That's very good position for Lepa to be in, because lack of also ground-based AA. I believe, yeah, the other 7-1... Did it get blapped? Yes, it did. So, it's looking a little bit lackluster in the air game, and you really don't let Finns to control the air.
That's true, but you also don't want the Germans to bring in the Nebelwerfer. And what's more, actually know where to fire it. Nebelwerfer strike is going to hit all of those Finns inside the main artillery on that highway to hell, and most of these guys are not making it home.
No.
Yikes.
Damn. That was nice to see a good, you know, frontline Nebelwerfer barrage for a change, rather than just trying to knock out anti-aircraft units. But unfortunately, there's nothing really to follow up that fantastic barrage, so Lepa's not going to get punished all that much.
The second one does come through and takes out one of the, actually his mortar positions on the neck of the hill. But even as that happens, down south there was a Stug that's being bedeviled by a 75 mil and that the hero Lahti over here, who continues to, well, be a pain in the ass. Wouldn't be surprised if he's going to take out maybe one more of these trucks before the end. We'll see. That's one. That's two. That's three.
The little Lahti yak could, and there we go. Tonnoman, I'm done. I don't care about anything else. It was the Lahti. Lahti definitely got the dub, yeah. Just a moral victory.
Well, la-ti-da. I will say, folks, if you actually rewind the video just to that point, you can hear the moment where Tonnoman flips his desk. KD, again, one of those very, very strange moments when it should be a lot harsher than it is, and yet it doesn't ever seem to be the case.
Yeah, it's pretty back and forth that match, honestly. And looking at
Tantu, a god among men.
Oh my Jesus Christ, he knocked out like the majority of the Rolfen SS.
So folks, we want to remind you real quick, that's 15 points.
Yes. And a dream.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. It's got to be a 20 or 30 to 1. Like, I would conservatively say, what's this again? 600 points. I would say probably 400 of that might be Tantu. Single-handedly won the game in the South.
And he didn't take any casualties. He's at full HP the entire time. I'm actually surprised there wasn't, like, that Tonnoman wasn't able to... It was maneuvering some pioneer skill of it. But the anti-partisan operations were a big L.
Well, yeah, because every single time I shot at those guys, I kept hitting these big brass balls that they were dragging through the forest. Like, he's not doing anything with that. Lost is Weingartner doing well. Again, the 233s, of which they've been used a little more aggressively. Lorik picking up 3 kills before he gets burned down by the ground fire. And Stoeffel, a couple T-26s, Komsolets. Yeah, this one that was down south and got taken out as well. So, not a good day to be in the air, but also not a good day to be in Tantu's sights.
No, that's...
Yikes.
The little Lahti ain't good.
Indeed. But, any final thoughts then, sir?
No.
All I can say is wow. But well done to Paladin Lepa. We've seen him play flatline Finns over here a couple of times. Nice to see it work in the long run, even against an eco disadvantage.
Yeah, good job.
Well done. Folks, until next time then, of course, that means this is Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru, take it easy.